Recording in progress. Cool. So here we are then, episode 4 of Gromcast, and look who I've got with me today. Deakinator. Oh, he said if I was going to try and get through a whole podcast without saying oi oi.
Yeah,
brilliant.
Good.
Oh, good, mate. Brilliant. I thought we've just come off the back of the Freedom Ride, and one of my funniest moments was I think it was at the whip off on the Sunday afternoon. One of the kids just said oi oi continuously, and then he said oi oi, and then there's about 20 people going shut up. It was just fucking.
And luckily for me, I didn't need to say it because
no, it just
people were telling him to shut up.
It's there. It's hilarious.
I sometimes got to realise I'm a 36-year-old man oi-oing people. It's like you're too old for this now.
Pretty funny.
While it's on t-shirts and bikes and everything else, I've just
mate.
on it. So.
Yeah, exactly. It's all right, isn't it? It's all right. So yeah, it wasn't a bad weekend, was it? The old Freedom Ride. Obviously, nothing to do with me. That's all the Hook It podcasts, or a ride companion, I should say.
Really fun.
Mint, wasn't it?
You say that, quite a lot to do, you guys, because you've got to clear up all the mess afterwards.
Yeah, that's what I was the only guy at work on Monday, and that was me clearing up.
But as a vibe, like I think what those boys have created, you know, Rogate's got a vibe now anyway. You know, it used to be, as you know more than me about Rogate, but Rogate was always a place you used to go and ride because I believe it was Pedalounge used to race there years ago. Yep. And then it was almost unknown what it was. Then it became a club, and then obviously it's the official thing that it is now. And as a riding venue, it genuinely is like so fun for everyone. Like, yes, you've got you've got Josh Bryson there on Sunday. You've got someone who's been riding a bike, a month. You've got a 70-year-old, you've got a 8-year-old. So it's like, as a venue, there is genuinely something for there. Okay, you're not going to suddenly hit Dark Fest jumps there, but it's not about that. It's about good times with your mates, and that's exactly what it was. So it was really cool. And what Ollie and Davey and Sam and all those guys have created now with the Freedom Ride is just a yearly tradition of just having a laugh with your mates, which keeps it all good.
Yeah, it's just the sickest thing. I love events like that because it's not, certainly from our end, it's nice to help run events that aren't just a race. Racing I love, don't get me wrong, I'm so stoked on it, but having that like jam vibe is just the best.
It's chill.
Like the best thing. Like I think last year, even this year, to a certain degree, kind of jokes, we spent more time gassing and chatting about than probably did actually doing any laps, to be honest. It was
100%.
It's like just the best thing, man. Just the best thing.
Well, if you go there, well, for me personally, if I go there for a day riding, I will literally just see how many runs I can get and then finish the day. Bit of talking to everyone, and then it's like, right, go home. I'm absolutely done. That whole weekend, I probably did less riding than if I did for a day there riding, And that was all just, and it was cool because the heat was, we can't moan about the heat because it was hot, and I'm sure we'd all moan if it was raining, but it was like summer vibes, and it was almost just as cool to sit back and watch people and have a good old chat about this, that, and the other, wasn't it? Until it came to race day on the Saturday, didn't go to plan with the old wheel, but Sunday it was like, right. That is my moment to shine.
It was so good. Like, obviously, I wasn't working the Saturday, and I was up the other end of the site when the hot seat racing was going down. But everyone was so hyped on it. It was insane. Everyone loved it. So
it's like such a cool format. How the problem is with like a normal race, there's just a lot of sitting around.
Yeah.
But, like if you were doing a downhill race, it's like, right, I've got practice, then I'm sitting around ready for my race run, and then. As a format, especially because it's such a short track, it always keeps you going because you just want to keep pushing. When we watched the kids race, it was almost funnier because it was just two lads that were just constantly battling between them. And it's just cool for everyone to get involved, watch, and then obviously having a commentator letting everyone know where everyone's standing, and obviously the final run beating Ollie to the top step, that was like a massive win.
It's like
that's it. All in, good luck.
He knows his place.
Exactly. No, number one rider in the Focus team.
Obviously.
All good.
Oh man, so I'm gonna go a bit like digging through like the memory banks now. You said obviously you like Rogate, one of the first things was like the Pedalounge race. What was your first memories of like Rogate, and even like the first times you rode there, even some early racing? Because I've got some photos in here which we're going to look at in a bit. Dragged up some crackers from Longmoor back in the day.
There we go. So yes, Longmoor was my first real Well, it depends how far back you want to go. So I got into riding through mates who then found doing up cars and scooters was way more fun than riding a clapped out bike. So then that's when I sort of started wanting to go racing. I think at the time you weren't allowed to race until you were 16, I believe, certainly at some races. So that's when I did one cross country round. I broke my collarbone doing a cross country race. And then that was like, oh, okay, that's the end of that. And then I got introduced to the Longmoor Army Camp, which was part of the Pedal Hound series.
Yeah.
And that's how it all almost started venturing up your way, where it was like, right, race Longmoor Army Camp. And then I don't actually I can't remember back then as part of the Pedal Hounds if I did a Rogate. My brain is too long ago. But I know that I rode at Rogate unofficially when it was like, I think it was in between not knowing what it was, if it was an official venue or whatever, and used to be a hardcore group of locals that used to dig little tracks, so we'd just go there, and it was going back a bit because all the top was all trees rather than obviously all felt.
Before that harder half was Clearfield.
So it was riding all there, a bit of a laugh, got to meet some of the locals, and then obviously over the years it then became a thing where I think you just pay and play to whoever, to the club who owned it, and then obviously it is what it is all these years later. But certainly had a few races over the years there, and certainly a lot of good memories. So
yeah, man, like I had a good chat with on episode 2 with Scott of Southern Enduro. We had some good old memories of just kind of what it used to be like, and in some ways kind of the good side and the bad side of like that's what it is now. Like the fact that there used to be so many tracks, it was just this web of downhill carnage. You would get people clattering into each other. There was some stuff that was just insane, like road gaps and whatnot, and it was like it wasn't really kind of sustainable, I don't think, in that format. As much fun as it was, it had to kind of get there, and obviously once you started organising it, it has to end up like it is now. Like,
well, I think everyone sort of over the years, people have got, whether or not we're getting older, but certainly the youngsters know how it should be run from a safety perspective now. Because I know, you said that. I always remember on where mainline was, there was always a big line that went and traversed straight over it, and I believe it almost you could jump someone on that track. And then where mainline tabletop is, there was always this nasty, horrible double that used to have this big wooden landing, and people would like, just carnage. So,
I found some. I chucked it on the Gromcast Instagram, but Kane, a local, found some absolutely golden potato can footage from early noughties Rogate, and it's got the sketchiest wooden doubles where it's like the dirtiest wooden landing, and then like a selection of takeoffs just going further and further back from it. And, it's just, and there's my mate on his like 24-inch Rebel hardtail and all sorts of old school stuff. It's such a good video, such a good vid. But yeah. Sweet memories from that place, and that's my job, so I can't complain really. Like,
exactly.
That landed on my feet with that one, but I'm gonna drag the old photos out now. Where we mentioned Longmoor, I found, or I think my wife did. I'm gonna start flicking through to find the right ones, but there's no way it's gonna sharpen it. I'm gonna have to figure out how to edit some of these, but I'll definitely.
It needs a bit of after editing, mate.
Yeah, I'll throw these in. There's you on the old Intense with the old look back.
How it hasn't changed all these years later. Though.
No, dirty no-footer. No helmet though, naughty boy.
That's so sick.
Yeah, mate. If you want them, I'll post them to you, mate. Because like they are.
Mate, that's amazing.
Look at that extension on your look back, mate. Look at it. Look at
that. Dude, these are making a fit. That's insane.
I know.
That's so sick.
I know.
How the look back hasn't changed all these years later.
Like, just not.
So funny.
Yeah. I've got some funny old ones on one of my old bikes.
No helmet as well, and the old deer was there. She would have gone absolutely stir crazy. Do you know what? That's remind me. I tell you what it was, because you turned up to that race, and I think that's it. I forgot my helmet, so I had to borrow one to race. And that Intense, like you think, oh, sport little brat. I worked all my lifeguard duties for that, and I bought that off Will Longdon as an ex-MBUK bike for £1,500, and it was like the most obscene amount of money I've ever seen, because obviously you used to get paid in little wage packets with cash, none of
little brown envelope stuff.
So every brown envelope would be like £19.20 for the week or whatever, and then it was like just carry on stacking it up. To one point I was like, oh wow, I'm nearly there, and then it'd be like, oh mum, Christmas this year, like what am I allowed? Like, is there any chance I could have an early Christmas present and a bit of cash to help? And we saw this bike for sale in the free ads as such, and then that was it. I was like, in the back of them UK free ads, it's like, oh my god, it's Will Longden's UK bikes. There it was.
Yeah.
So and do you know what? I wish I bloody well. Same with anything, isn't it? I wish I bloody had it now, because I think I sold it for 700 quid. And now you look at the frame prices alone, you think, oh my god.
And the whole retro thing's just massively taken off now, isn't it? Like some of the stuff people are paying for things. Like I sold a set of Marzocchi Shivers from way back. I had when I bought Santa Cruz Bullet from a mate, and I sold them some point in the early noughties, and even back then they still went for a good few hundred quid. And if I had on top now, like the Eastern end of Europe and the Russians love their like proper overbuilt weird noughties free ride madness. They love it. I probably could have made a lot more, but hey, hindsight's
now, I tell you who's got a stash is Ollie Wilkins. Oh my god!
Really?
We went round to his pet. Well, I probably shouldn't disclose where it is.
Yeah.
The old school legends. Anyway, so there's just all sorts of his old days, and the thing is with Oz, bless him, like he loves hoarding. So I'm like, oh mate, all of this is worth so much money. He's like, yeah, get it out, see how much it's worth. So I take a picture of this intense taser, this, what was the other thing, this old Nikola. I'm like, right, I'll post this, see if anyone wants to buy it. He's like, yeah, do it. And some bloke's literally like, that's my old bike, I'll literally give you £1,000. And Ollie's like, nah, just chucked it straight back in the garage, and you know it's going to be there for another 20 years. You think, goodness sake.
Oh, mate.
Just seeing all this old school stuff, you're like, oh my god, where have you got all this stuff from, Oz? It's insane.
That's mad. Yeah. I didn't really seem to hoard. I wish I'd treated my bikes like I treated a lot of my old toys, because a couple of years back I made a fair old killing, because obviously I was like, I'm 83 I was born, so it was all Ghostbusters, Turtles, Goat, all that sort of stuff, and I had loads of toys, and a lot of it had just been in a box in a loft, or like my mum's loft. And like the Ghostbusters Cadillac still in its box, all the stuff, it had been in a box, so the plastic hadn't aged. God, I sold that for like the best part of 100 quid. It was nuts.
I bet.
It was absolutely nuts.
Mate, I'll tell you, I'm gonna interlude this, but this to make you laugh here. So I did the same during lockdown. I went through all my old kid stuff.
Yeah.
And do you remember Micro Machines?
Yeah.
So,
I always joke that the current B&W X6 looks like a big Micro Machine.
So literally, Micro Machines put it out on one of these groups, and I was like, oh guys, bearing in mind I went to a car boot sale and tried flogging the lot, like loads, for 15 quid, and we're talking loads, the city, everything. Went on one of these Facebook pages, and they're like, I'd honestly say about 25 people, collectors, they circled these free cars, like, oh, how much for these three? And you're like, bit of a thing how there's literally like 20 odd people circling these.
Yeah.
And here they are. And I've worked out, dude, no word of a lie, that one alone is worth 400 quid apparently to some mad people.
What?
So I'm just like, if it's worth that, I'm just keeping on. So this whole collection, I look like a right nutter here. I've got these three that literally live in a box in my trophy cabinet, and they're just staying there because apparently they're worth big money, because apparently they're the deluxe ones.
Yeah.
So here's a top tip: if you're into your Micro Machines, you're looking for Galoob written on the bottom. That's what means they're the top dog.
I had a few.
And it's so funny how like all of this crap was for sale at a car boot sale, the lot for 15 quid, and I'd have been over the moon to get rid of that. And then lockdown hit, and I did a bit of research, and then all these people like circling these free, and I had this guy like, mate, genuinely, that one there, just so you don't get ripped off, that's worth a lot of money. I was like, really? That's insane. So there we go. So they're now in a trophy cabinet, in a box at the back of the trophy cabinet, and then just stay there for another 10 years.
I've got a few old school bits still knocking around. Like I've got a set of the old Tioga Cube, like handlebar and stem combo somewhere. So I think if someone was trying to build like a Warner replica on the old ATX1, I'm sure he's running those for a bit. But
yeah, for sure.
They're just sat in the loft. I managed to swap an old school set of DMR cranks with Rory last year at the Freedom Ride, because I had a set of the old cheap Mark II steel ones with all the bits still, and I was like, don't owe anything to me. So swap them for a set of pedals.
I think what's cool is someone like Rory, like at DMR, they're just going to actually be pride of place for people to admire rather than people going, oh, I make money on these.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'd rather it did that than like sat in a glass cabinet somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Definitely.
Pretty rad, man. So, change your tack. How was the old Mega then? I watched a bit of the old video usually this morning.
So,
what on earth?
Mega as a race, for anyone listening, is something that they definitely need to do. I put it off for years, and then I did it the first time. I'm like, wow, this is, as an event, this is the most ridiculous event. But the feeling when you cross the line isn't like a race run. It's not like, oh my God, how did I do it? It's like, oh my God, I've survived, you know? And everyone, whether you've won the thing or come 400th, like, it's you get to the bottom and you have that achievement of going, oh, thank God I've made it to the bottom. So for me personally, the main race was the qualification. So to fill anyone in, it's the top, each qualifying round has, I believe, 200 riders. The top 35 in each heat then make the main race from 36 to 76. They could make the B race, 77th to 120th or whatever, and make the C race, which is another mass start race. And then if you don't make that, you're obviously too crap and you just get time down the run. So a lot of it is you've got to make the main race. So luckily for me, I got 6th in my heat, which meant that I was second row starting for the main pro race. So it was like a good start position. But then obviously we went and saw the conditions this year, and the piste was like, there wasn't any snow. It looked blooming dangerous. And you're just like, look, I'm happy, I've done the qualification, got a good result. I'm just literally in my head just going to get to the bottom, because obviously normally you have snow, it's really wide, you go down a proper ski piste. And then this year, because there wasn't any snow, they made a massive chicane, loads of horrible sharp rocks, all of that stuff. And a couple of others went out with, they were just like, yeah, let's just get to the bottom. And I was like, yeah, do you know what? There's too much stuff going on, and you're just going to be, you know, Will Easy, you know Will Easy, like I think he broke his knee or whatever last year, and you just think it's not necessarily the skill of you, it's all the other idiots around you, like
the lack of skill of everyone else.
And it's unlike a downhill race where you focus, you know your lines, you know all this, you know how fast to hit everything. Unfortunately, with a race like that, it's you don't, even though you know your lines, you might not necessarily be on that line. You have loads of other idiots around you, and it's literally a survival by that point. You're like, let's get to the bottom, and getting to the bottom in itself, you're like, right, done. Like, I've got another friend who's done it 4 times and he's never finished it because he's had mechanicals, or one year he just gave up. And the worst person he saw, like, the first person he sees as he comes to the village is me. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
Oh,
like,
no.
That was it. And he's like, oh no, there's too many people in the way. It's like, what do you expect? You put yourself in that race, like, you deserve to be in that race, so that's what happens. So.
Oh man, it's one of those ones that's always on my bucket list, and I've just never got round to it.
You honestly got to do
money, whatever. But
it's not. I think the most annoying thing with it, it's not like a. You don't go there for fun. It's not like let's go to Morzine for a week and blow ups and turns and have the best laugh. You go there, your bike gets done over, you get done over, you rattle yourself silly, and then at the end of all of that, you've completed it, and you're like, wow, I've survived, like, what a sick experience, I'm never doing it again. And then obviously when race entries open, you think, oh, wasn't that bad actually, because your bike's all mended by that point. You're like, yeah, it wasn't that bad at all. And then there you are on the start line the following year going, why have I entered this thing again? But then there we go.
It just is what it is. So for like people doing it, what do you reckon they need to be prepared for fixing afterwards? Because I've seen and heard so many horror stories of bikes.
Yeah, I think wheels are the big one. So obviously I'm a spoilt brat. Riding for Focus, I got an aluminium and a carbon. Obviously opted for the aluminium out there. Mm-hmm. If you were taking your hard-earned cash carbon bike, is it really worth saving a bit of weight to not have tyre down the down tube, for instance? Like, no point whatsoever. Just, you want to try and protect your bike as best you can, because you're getting rocks flying up, you're getting other people whacking into you, you've got all these things. But definitely a good set of tyres and wheels is almost a must, because it's just so, you imagine you've got like the race day is 50 minutes of just rock, and okay, towards the bottom it's a lot nicer, but it's still pretty punishing on you and the bike. So I only had one set of downhill tyres. Obviously I wanted to conserve them for as long as I could. So I took some trail tyres because it was my trail bike. and I went riding the first couple of days, and I tried a couple of years ago. I actually put a downhill tube in the back rather than tubeless because a number of my friends ended up piercing tyres, and the holes are that much of a gash that it doesn't matter what sealant you've got, it's never going to do anything. So that's when I put a bit of tube in. I was like, right, this do the job. And initially I ended up getting 3 punches with a tube on one run. I was like, this isn't the one. So that's when I just like, right, I'm just going to have to bite the bullet and put the downhill tyres on slightly earlier than I wanted to. So it meant that, it's not like your downhill tyres are going to grip like a downhill race. You just want to make sure you can serve your tyres at least for qualifying and racing,
Yeah.
So that was it. So decent set of downhill tyres, strong wheels, and then loads of brake pads because you probably will go through them. Not good.
You can hear him squealing in all the videos I've seen of those pit sections and stuff, and even just the crashes and stuff. I remember one of the Earth videos, they had, I think it was the third one, they had like a big section on the Mega. I just remember one of the crashes, some dude just comes off one of those like off-camber single track traverses, and the bike just tomahawks into the valley, just sort of to be seen again. You see this guy like scrambling down like a goat, and it's going to take you like an hour to get back out of there. That bike is absolutely fuckoed. I think that is done, mate. Expensive trip for that thing.
So 2 seconds.
Go.
Next. We're back.
It's all good. Cool. So, what were your, going back to like early days of riding and stuff, what was all your local spots then? Because obviously I literally grew up next door to Rogate, damn near, so that was kind of one of my haunts. I'm guessing you were more kind of puddle town,
being sort of so basically Isle of Purbeck. So if you think of Poole Harbour, it's basically all around there, where we're definitely not blessed with hills. We've got loads of decent, well, I say decent, we've got loads of scenic cross-country rides. So if you went and did the Isle of Purbeck loop, you've got loads of pubs, loads of like nice scenic ways. And then it's almost like a smaller version of what you guys have got. And then if you venture up to the Surrey Hills, it's almost like loads of smaller hills with loads of tracks, because the riding scene down here is nowhere near the size of sort of the Rogate scene, but there's quite a key part of riders that sort of do shred down here. And obviously growing up, like Steve Gill was a bit of an idol, and he obviously rode for Team Animal Orange. And so he's got a couple of little spots down here. And then we obviously, as you got older, you got to meet the other people around here that race. So it's definitely not worth a road trip down here to go, let's go riding on the south coast. But at the same time, there's loads of little pockets that, and we've had this discussion before actually with like Ollie and stuff, when if you think of Rampage, 3-4 years ago, when there was Bernard, Sam Reynolds, Brendan there, you think there's 3 guys there who all live within 15 miles, who all ride in the gnarliest thing in the world, and yet where do they train? It's not those big horrible hills and mountains where they live.
Like the almost opposite. Whole thing
of repetition, and I honestly think that's what it is. Where if you lived in Scotland, they'll probably disagree, but if you lived in Scotland where you've got this massive hill, you're not going to hit that same corner over and over and over. You're just going to go, right, let's go right to the top and race all the way down to the bottom, and that's that. But the beauty is we've got loads of small 20-second tracks, but we're all like love it that much that we're just like sessioning. It's almost like that race on Sunday or Saturday and Sunday, like the hot seat racing. What is it? Well, it's a bunch of blokes and ladies all looking at this tiny little track, but everyone's like, right, I'm going faster, I'm doing it better than you, I'm doing it better than you. Like, you wouldn't ever get that competitive on a 5-10 minute track, like, right, I'll just push up and just smash it out again, because you wouldn't.
No.
It's very much the same here. It's just loads of little pockets, loads of little dirt jumps here and there. And
I've been saying this kind of theories a while, like, certainly from like the coaching background now. I think it's like riding kind of becomes like deep practice and like chunking like certain things. Like you look at, I don't know, I think like globally, I think we're like the 3rd biggest mountain bike market after like the US and Germany. But you look at like which is mad, isn't it? And then you look at like World Cup results over the last few decades. Germany's not up there, but the UK has been well up there. And I think it is literally because you can go somewhere like Germany, ride like a longer downhill, make a handful of mistakes, get to the bottom and be like, sick run. And then you can come to Rogate, Puddletown, whatever, cock up one turn on a 30-second run and be like, that, no, background, do it again, do it again, and next thing you know, you're pumping out like some fairly serious talent on the bike. It's definitely something to do with it. Like,
and seeing kids now, like I think when you look at like the bike park scene, well, obviously we're the same generation where there wasn't really any bike parks. There was maybe Concon back in the day as an official venue, but there wasn't certainly, you know, you literally rode what you built. And it's almost, it goes two ways now where kids almost expect, right, there's berms there that you guys have spent all day building and then they just come and smash them up. It's like...
With 8 PSI in the rear tyre and a handful of rear brake. Rude.
Exactly. It's just like, oh, why are you doing this? And it's, unfortunately, it's annoying, but on the flip side of that, it's certainly bringing a lot of people to the sport. And when you're seeing these younger kids shredding, you're like, do you know what, fair play. It's because they've got a playground, and I guess unfortunately for you guys, it's because you're cheaper than a crash, aren't you? So it's like,
well, yeah, like school holidays coming up, bro. It's going to get hectic.
That's it. It's like, oh, let's just offload them there for the day, but they just end up just smashing it and just get loads of runs in. And I think it's the whole contingent of how big the scene is amongst that area now. It's really cool.
It is. It's mad. I think. You see it all the time, and I had to eat humble pie when I first started at road gates. I saw this lippy little turd in his tracky bottoms and this nail of a Carrera. Like, it was awful, rattly, orange chain, all of that, fully rigid, absolute jank. Saw him riding, holy, kid flying, dude. like really. So the bike didn't sound smooth, but he was just absolutely nailing it, and I was like, fair play. Like, that's so cool. Reading a book by the cover. 6 months later, he's got better hardtail, and then about 80, well, like up to about now, I think I saw him maybe a couple of months back, and he had like some short travel something or other and was just nailing it. I was like, yes, lad, that's what it's about. So cool. Like, it's so cool to see, really. They don't know they're bored, do they, kids these days? Like, Well,
do you know what? On the flip side of that, the gnarliest thing about the whole bike park scene is the fact that, you know, we used to grow up, and I say that intensity you showed earlier, that was like years of saving. Yet my first bike was what, a 200 quid rubbish sort of hardtail, and even then that was like, oh my god, this bike's cost me so much money. And the sad thing is now is, unfortunately, because, you know, it's the whole social media thing with like girls looking at loads of makeup and stuff, isn't it? Where you're looking at these kids and they're like, oh yeah, I've only got this bike, and you're like, it's a $2.5 grand full suspension bike, and you're going, oh, that's a bit crap, really, because mate, he's got a $5.5 grand one. And you're like, dude, I'd have done anything but dream about having a bike.
Literally,
like that.
Will have chopped my feet off for that. Like back at your age, it's mad.
It's just annoying. It's annoying how, unfortunately, you know, we're partly to blame, because at the end of the day, like, brands give us bikes to promote, and obviously it's a business. They want, the kids want the latest gear, and unfortunately they're looking at a $5.5 grand bike or $10.5 grand bike, and then they're looking at their grand bike going, yeah, it's not the best. And you think, it's £1,000 for a mountain bike, dude. Count yourself lucky.
Yeah, exactly. You know, there's a lot of kids who are not in a position, like, at all to A, afford the bike, B, have parents who are going to drive you somewhere to ride that bike, because most of them don't have riding literally on their doorstep. There's a lot of parents who do a lot of carting around with these kids. It's like, you need to count your blessings, kiddos. I'm sounding like a right preachy old fart now, but like, Jesus, kids, like, you've got it so good these days, and like, it does suck a bit when they're like, oh no, I can't do this because I want that owning shock he's got on his Yeti. It's like, no, you don't. Just ride it. It's like, someone might have been on the old Ride Companion. Someone asked, like, Ollie, like, what's the best bike to get for dirt jumping? He's like, it kind of doesn't matter. You've got a bike that rolls.
Just get a bike.
It doesn't matter what it is, like, at all.
As long as it's sort of safe, you'll be fine.
As long as it's not going to break and everything's kind of tight, you know, and it's got a brake on it and your wheels are straight, just crack on. Like, some of the stuff, I mean, even like the good bikes back when we started were crap. Like, saying the same thing with Scott in the previous episode, like, you used to do wheels, like, all the time. Like, I probably broke more parts fitting them because I made out of dairy lead than I did actually riding the damn thing. Chain guides with like 1 million spacers and crap pressed aluminium and just stuff like that. It's just garbage, man. Like, it's come on so much. Like, you suddenly realise, oh yeah, I've had a set of wheels for a while. like they're not absolutely ruined, and the bars haven't bent, or, you know, mates, you don't see kids with frames that have been welded up for the fourth time that year.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? It's just mental. Different scene. Everything's changed so much, just from like the style of riding itself, I suppose. Like back then when I started, I was happy just bombing single track or drifting around fire roads up Longmore with my foot out and looking all cool. But now it's just such a different thing.
Definitely.
I'm loving where everything's at right now. So you mentioned Rampage earlier. Obviously you've been out a few times with that, digging with the golden goose himself, Mr. B-Dog. How is that as an experience, dude? Like, because from a spectator looking at it through the internet window, even the digging part of it looks almost as gnarly as riding the damn thing.
Well, it's quite funny because the digging they never really used to do any coverage on. It was almost like, right, we're watching the main event and that was it. Even to the point where people are like, "Oh, is there tracks already there?" And you just pick a track to ride, and it's like, no. That is literally 9 days of intense labour that you'd never do anywhere else. Where obviously it's a thing where the amount of kids, well I say kids, loads of people are like, "Oh mate, I'd love it if there's a space." Like we did a bit of a hoax a couple of years ago. It was like, "Oh, anyone want to come out? Like I can't be bothered to go. Like there's a spare space on Brendan's dig team. Oh my god, I want to go. And it's like, wow, it's literally like your dad said to you, right, there's a mattock and just hit your driveway for 9 days and tell me how fun it is. It really isn't like the most fun event to dig at.
It doesn't
but I think where we almost reap the rewards, certainly for me and Ollie, is as soon as people start practicing for the first time. So as soon as the bikes are on the dirt for the first time in that year, it's unlike any other track. It's almost like if you think of just testing at Rogate for the first time. Someone had to hit that happy ending tabletop for the first time, and it's like, right, how fast do I do? What do I do with all this? The difference is they're hitting canyon gaps where they most definitely can't case it. They most definitely can't just suddenly roll over the top of it, and they've got no one else to gauge off. It's literally like, for a lot of them, that's their line and their line only. Like if you look at Bren's canyon gap, he's looking at me, and bearing in mind, I'm never going to throw myself off that, but I think he just wanted that, you'll be fine. He's like, yeah, that'd be all right, Diggs, wouldn't it? Yeah, because you're asking me who's going to blatantly hit a 50-foot canyon gap in that environment. Like, well, I don't know about that. But, he's asking, you're like, well, everything works. The running, the speeds there, everything else. And Ollie is a magician at building lips. Like, isn't he? He's so, precise. That's why I had to do all the slave labour, and Ollie was like the fettler on the...
You were just the grunt for shifting the dirt.
I just have to move all the crap and carry sandbags up hills. So
that's right.
It's just, I think from that perspective, that's what made it when we were first there, and we were just like, wow, this is sick. Now when you're seeing all of that, that's where you're like, okay, this is where we're getting our payback now. We've got literally VIP seats where we're not enclosed in a pen. We've got these little bands that allow us to go anywhere on the hill, and we're obviously watching it all. And obviously the famous thing from, God, when was it now? 2020, wasn't it? Or 2019, 2020 when Bren did the flip. No, it was 2019, wasn't it? We had COVID in 2020. Yeah, so you think, wow, when he did that flip, like we knew he was doing that flip. He talked about it all that year going, I'm going to flip it. Obviously Ollie builds this lip, and then Bren's looking at it going, whoa, I'm going to have to flip that. So obviously for finals, me and Ollie stayed the other side, and the nerves, honestly, like you cannot describe, because you've had all this, you've invested yourself for that whole week. You're so in depth of what's going on at Rampage that you're like, right, come on, Brian, this is it. And then he lands it, and then we obviously just lost our shit. It was like, our mates literally just flipped a canyon.
Yeah, you can hear just from the audio of that. You guys are like screaming like, yeah, and then there's almost like, I'm actually just crying now because I'm so stoked he's not dead.
Yeah. And you laugh. We literally watched him do his line, and me and Ollie both cried. We're like, what are we doing? Our mate's done a flip and we're crying. But I think it's just, like when you're watching, I don't know, like SAS, Are You Tough Enough and all that. And the whole purpose of all of this is designed to break you down, and they're not themselves. Like, it's almost like, obviously going through military training, it's like, it's the same way. You're working you're getting up at 5 in the morning to dig before it's too hot. So you're working from like 6 till 10:30, just chewing rock. Then you have a little break in the middle, and then you're doing it all again. You're doing this that whole thing for eight days, just solid, and you're so worn down and fatigued and tired, like just you're so emotional by that point because you know, as much as we try and make it fun on social media, like we haven't got time to do anything else other than dig, and that's all we see for those 8 days, 9 days. And then obviously as soon as the bikes come on, then we're not doing as much hard labour. It's just more fettling here and there. But you're just so invested in it as an event by the end of that. Like when your mate actually lands something that he's talked about for the last year, you're like, oh my God, thank God that's over now. He survived. Let's go home.
Oh man, I can't imagine getting in Bren's mindset for hitting something like that, or how you, especially as it's like the first time you're doing it is on that live feed with however many millions of people are potentially watching it.
It's bloody gnarly, dude. It's like when he weighed it up, he was like, right, well if I aim left, worst case that's a broken collarbone. If I go right, I'm probably going to fall down the cliff. And we're just like, you're a flipping idiot, you are.
Mate, like, that's nuts. Yeah, it's quite cool, like getting in. Like a few times I've been near him, like I've been out to a couple of World Cups, and I've got friends who've known, because he'll grow up around here, known him for years, and just talking like track walks and stuff, and it's like how his head's like processing what's going to happen riding wise. I'm like, this is a bit of an eye opener. Like taking that to Rampage, it's beyond anything I think like most of us can really contemplate doing. Like it's just,
and then also the old boy's still pulling it around, isn't he? That's the thing. He might not be getting World Cup results, but he's still doing little whips here and there.
Yeah, he does the odd one, doesn't he? Like, he does do the odd one, doesn't he? Yeah, definitely. Unreal. So I'm guessing as well, it's pretty good exposure for you as well, kind of sponsor wise as well, as being on that crew.
I think, but from that perspective, like. As a unit, us three, like we genuinely get on really well, and in that instance where you are tired, you are a bit down in the not down in the dumps, but you just fatigued. Like the last thing you'd need is just people that you don't really know or trust or like. You know, you wouldn't last. So we're all literally rock bottom, and there's points where we'd all go back to the room, and literally. Just all lie there. We wouldn't even talk because we're all so tired.
Just done.
It's cool because we all just know each other inside out. So it's just like, yeah, well, there we go. That's it. And then I think the gnarliest, really, you know, not that I can compare to it, but like Megavalanche, night before is the only race, and I've done a lot of racing, it's the only race that I overthink, and I'm like, shit, like this is gnarly. What am I doing? And then poor old Bren, bless him, like the night before, he's just screaming in his sleep, like, fucking hell, that's like me and Ollie just look at each other like, whoa, that guy is going through so much stress right now because when you stand on like his rock drop, for instance, it's a bloody big drop anyway, but you just think it's not like a perfect, you know, if you're building that at home, you're like, okay, it's bloody big anyway, but you build it so it's a nice run out, everything's mint, so as a worst case, that could happen. But you're on about this drop that when he lands, the bike compresses and then unweights again. And then if he doesn't catch that berm, he's literally firing on down a cliff. And you think, and every feature in their own right, if that was like a feature at Rogate, I mean, look at Rogate Kawad, you know, you look at that and everyone's like, oh my God, that's insane. Well, the thing is with this, because there's so many insane features everywhere that it almost turns down that the mad features aren't as extreme as the big features, so therefore that's like your warm-up line, when in reality if that was at a bike park it'd be like the gnarliest thing ever. So
and even just like the bits in between, and like even like some of the little link sections and stuff are just so tech, like, unreal.
It's just a different way. Like me and Ollie think the same about this, where unfortunately you look at Rampage as an event, obviously the initial Rampage that was gnarliness, downhill, like using all your skill to get down the most mental sections, unfortunately is slowly going to more favourable of a slopestyle rider where, you know, it's still gnarly and a hell of a lot of respect for them, but everything is so like you could eat your dinner off it, you know, where it's so smooth. And
I'm a little bit, for me, obviously I've grown up with Rampage since its inception, and the early stuff was literally pretty much bombing damn near completely natural lines, and I'm all for like the Seminux and whatnot from this world, and the insane tricks they pull, but I'm like, parts of the track are so groomed. I'm like, it almost kind of doesn't fit in my head, but it's not my fault,
and it's so hard to judge as well, because if you said to Brendan, right, ride that line of, I don't know, Brett Readers or whoever, he'd get down it, no two ways about it, but he wouldn't be able to go anywhere near pulling the tricks that those guys would do. And likewise, if you said to, and he wouldn't mind me saying it, like Nikolai's a hell of a rider.
Oh, he's insane.
But he wouldn't be able to do downhill stuff because that isn't what he does. He just does mad tricks on big floaty jumps, and then it's like, ride down this gnarly, sketchy, steep line. Chances are he's not going to go any. So it's, as a judged event, it's stupidly hard to judge because you've got two very different sort of things going on, haven't you?
And obviously occasionally, you've got guys like Brendan who's basically a racer, and then also there are guys like G and Gracia all over the years, always one of the more downhill focused guys. I think the judging is always going to be controversial because you just can't you can't do it otherwise. I don't think it just doesn't really.
Well, I think it was that first year where, at the end of the day, you're just caring that your mate gets down alive because he's buying the rounds in Vegas. That's all you care about. But when you look at the first year, when Brendan got robbed, I think it opened up a lot of the judges' eyes and a lot of the people's eyes, because that was a genuine, it wasn't like we started a campaign. It was like people genuinely believed Brendan
should have placed higher.
I think he got 10th the first year, and you think the following year that he does it, he had some little bits and bobs, flips the canyon, was quite a big thing, and then he ends up 4th. And people are still like, we should have got 3rd, really. Well, that first year, when it was all new and no one knew what to expect, I honestly think that probably was a top 3 run. Maybe not, definitely not winning or second, but certainly third.
Yeah, I think even just like the style of the line and stuff, I thought everything about it was just so, to me, the whole thing just looked gnarly as well. Like, that was just the sheer technicality of the whole thing, let alone like the big features, just little link ups, like the steep, that horrible shit shoot, like down the face of the cliff, like all of it just looked. So and the fact it came from the viewers, like, he got robbed, rather than the digger going, like, it kind of thing. There is way more weight to it, and like actually get some what's the word, validation for it. So how does it go from quite happily chilling in each other's kind of personal space to rolling around sticking bins on each other's heads? Where does it like?
I just started off, like, obviously our relationship is very good. There was one rule I made, that I wouldn't be doing anything to Brendan until after finals, because let's be honest, the golden goose doesn't deliver if he can't deliver.
No.
So we were just fannying around one day, and then there was a bin in the room, and then it almost just looked like perfect Ollie Wilkins head size. So then that was it. It just like honestly went straight on his head. It was like, I was like, oh my god, this is so sick. So it became like a daily. Before I left for the day, I had to get Ollie in a bin head, and that was it's mad what comes around and happens. And then when we ended up in Vegas at the end of this, like obviously a few sherbets, that was it. It was just like, right, like gloves are off now. So we just went for it. And we got so
I love it.
Play fighting all the time, like that's all that I used to happen in the Marines. It was just like play fighting all the time.
Yeah,
it's just like being your mates and just fanning around. And,
I know, I love all that. I think it's kind of what I love about a lot of your content and stuff you put out. I mean, some of my favourite reels have not even really been like the riding ones. It's been where you've been wrestling people and farting on their head. For me, it's just absolute comedy gold. I'm mad for 39. I'm immature AF, but I'm sorry. Fart gags are funny. The day you stop laughing at fart gag is the day you cease to be a human being in my eyes. I'm just too much fun. I think you need to bring back more wrestling clips. Like whichever body part you're at, just wrestle someone.
It's just that double-edged sword now. Unfortunately, as soon as you get, dare I say it, like more of an athlete where companies are getting behind you, that's where you're like, oh dear, like tonight should I try and tone it down a bit? You just don't know. Like certainly with people when I've done coaching in the past, people see a very different professional side to normal me. Like people say that it's like, well, if you're with your mates, you're like, just hit that jump. Stop being scared, you little wimp. Just go on, hit it. Yeah, obviously from a coaching perspective, it's like, Or if you're feeling a bit uneasy, like I'd recommend maybe we start on a smaller one, work on technique, and then maybe don't hit it today, save it for another day. But obviously with your mates, like just fucking hit it.
Yeah,
it's just fun.
Yeah. Definitely. Coaching then. Also, how long have you been offering coaching now?
2003, I did a outdoor pursuits course at college, and that was outdoor education, leisure management. So it was like kayaking, mountain biking, all of this stuff. And then that was a 2-year course. And then in 2005, we ended up having to do like a placement. So a lot of the guys ended up doing placement in France with sailing and all sorts. Obviously, my love for mountain biking, I'm too geeky. I love riding too much. I know, like, look, you can go to France or you can try and jack up something of your own, but unfortunately the college can't help you with that. If you need to do it, like, all we need to see is come assessment, you need to be doing this, that and the other. So obviously I've done some stuff with Ian Warby back in the day at Aston Hill when he used to just ride there, and I've got to know Ian. I sort of said, look, mate, this is the situation. I'm doing a college course. Is there any way that I could, I don't know, just somehow come on board with you guys, and when you're delivering coaching, like come and assist and maybe just try and do some bits and pieces. So when my college instructors come to assess me, like they're out with me coaching a group. And that's exactly what happened. I ended up staying with him for, I think it was like 3 months. And then they obviously came on and assessed me for my college course. And then obviously that was one thing where it was always in the back burner, where obviously I was in the military. But then, cut a long story short, after I got injured, I ended up going to Germany. And that was where I went out there because I was injured. I went out as like the storeman in an adventure training centre capacity. But it turned out that I had more qualifications than half the instructors there. So I ended up just coaching loads of Marines as well. So very different sort of coaching to professional coaching. It was more survival rather than anything else. And then it's always been something that I've done bits of. And then I ended up working, or I got asked, I'd say headhunted, but I'd just say I got asked to work for a company called Pro Ride Guides, who big old company owned by Alex and Joe Rafferty, who actually run the Hard Rock. And then did that for a few years. And then as it happened, it's, you know, my riding career sort of took off, and then it's realistically, I just haven't got time for coaching because it's just been too busy with projects and being away. And it comes to a point, even in like where we had the first lockdown to the second lockdown, people still message me, and I'll try and coach if I can, but it's almost like I fill the diary and it's like, oh my God, because as you know, with the coaching aspect, it's not necessarily the physical side, the mental side. When you finish, you're like, oh my God, like, why do I do this again? Like, it's sick seeing someone start off with the basics and then by the end of the day, they're looking at a double that they never have looked at before. But for you as the instructor, you're just going, wow, like because you're going through all the emotions with them. And then all you're thinking in the back of your head is if there's a crash, unfortunately, it's coming back to you somewhere or another. So it's, I mean, I love coaching, but I wouldn't say, you know, I wouldn't say I'd overdo that, rather than, you know, I've just got to prioritise these days. It's like I can spend a day coaching, or I can just prioritise that day going out filming and do a vlog of some sort, you know. So it's
a lot easier in that respect. Still rewarding. I still love it, like absolutely love it. But it is taxing. Although obviously now, as you heard, Deakin's very busy and can't do much coaching. If you come and see us at b1k.com,
come and see you guys.
We'll see you right. So how obviously sponsor-wise over the years, you're in a pretty good spot right now. You've got some cracking little sponsors. Also, you had Melon up at the Freedom Ride at the weekend, and I've got a shout. The minute I saw these online, I was like, I need a pair of these in my life. Like, cheers, Melon, for screwing me up with a pair of them. That's awesome stuff. But obviously, you seem pretty happy with the Focus setup. You've got the relationship with DMR.
Genuinely, this is where you use any platform to go, Focus bikes, the best bikes, blah, 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 blah. But genuinely with Focus, they're not caring. The old Focus was probably very different as far as they were very race orientated, but they've realised that you look at lockdown and everything else, people are buying bikes because of like the good times associated with it. Yes, you know, Specialized are doing very well because Bruni's smashing it down a World Cup track. And many people still buying downhill bikes. I beg to differ, probably not that many. You know, the main bike, certainly in our industry, is a decent trail bike.
Yeah, trail / enduro. Yeah,
bike, because everyone wants a trail bike to go off, ride with their mates. You know, go and race enduros, go and do little mini downhills. They're all good for all of that. But one of the main reasons, really, with Focus was the fact that they weren't caring about race results. They were all about good times, and obviously a leading fact in that was the fact of my good mate Ollie being on the team as well. And you think, well, their slogan now is riding together, so they always want to have two people riding together rather than single riding. And for everyone's sake, it made the best way, because as you know, I rode for DMR's full suspension bike probably didn't take off how it should have, so
it's a great bike, the sled. It was such a great little bike.
I think it was just timing the whole thing, because they had more orders, but then they had to make that conscious decision and go, right, well, can we really compete against some of these other brands, should we say, who are literally slashing prices because they're literally going direct. DMR are obviously a very small brand in comparison to a lot of those. And what does everyone know DMR for? Well, pedals, cranks, bars, stems, not
dirt jump frames.
A full bike build unless it's a dirt jump bike. So that was it, really. It was almost a natural progression where I actually knew that I was going to go and ride for Focus in that October of that year. So that's why when we did the Sam Squared launch, that was in the summer of 2019, I believe, where I was obviously still riding for DMR, but Focus chatted to the main guys at DMR, and they're like, look, is there any chance this can happen? But yes, of course it is. It's still going to show all our DMR parts, blah, 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 blah. And then the rest is history. So I'm like really privileged that the brands that I ride for, they get what I'm about, you know, genuinely good times, fun times. Okay, I still race and I still love racing. I still want to be the fastest bloke there, but it's not all race dependent like some others, because, you know, without sounding like a right goon, like I like to think that I'm not just a machine that fires down hills like some other riders that I know, you know, that are just, right, I need to win, I need to race, because unfortunately, from a marketability point of view, like, they're just that machine who races and there's nothing else to them. And unfortunately now there's, you know, you look at the World Cup, there's a few personalities, but there's nowhere near as many personalities now as what they used to be, with the Nathan Rennies, the Rat Boys, the PEs.
Kavariks,
it's like there's so many machines now that are just there to win, and that's that. But,
the whole kind of scene has just changed so much. Like the post World Cup party, I was speaking to Luke Williamson about it, and obviously he's like, there's still partying going on. Some people go hard, you know. Emery Piron, I've heard quite a few stories of him team orders and he's still jumping off the hotel balcony and wanders back in. So there's still a bit of it, but I think the whole sport's just got way slicker and pro, and it's got that, you know, everything's a lot more focused on it, and it's not quite as party. You think what like PT heydays were like, and part of what I used to love about reading like Dirt magazine and stuff for all the race stuff was, apart from it being the only magazine with in-depth, was just all the party stories coming out.
Definitely. The fact that they're messing around with spoke tensions for more grip like baffles me. If I've got a loose spoke, I crank her up, and that's that.
I know. I was looking at the when I was over at Tidworth, we had one of the 100% commensal mechanics drop in, old Nick, who at Dynamics, and just talking about the commensal race bikes, and obviously I think the commensal muck-off team have got like bridges they can swap out on the chainstays to adjust the stiffness of the back of the bike, which is just like,
it's insane.
Like, what on earth? Like, even being able to really notice that difference, I can't get my head around that.
Definitely.
I can't get my head around that. I mentioned muck-off there, didn't I? So you've been with muck-off for a long time? Yeah.
When, I believe, and we need to double check on this, I believe 20 years is the big year next year.
Wow.
Which is insane.
That's a long time.
And that all started from my good friend James, who I got to meet for a mutual mate at college, and we got chatting, and he turns out that he did work experience there when there was like 5 of them.
Yeah.
And then they introduced me, they're like, oh, mate, it'd be awesome, you know, local lad, you Friday, you do racing, it'd be cool just to, you know, get you used to X-Lights. Obviously X-Light was...
Yeah. Oh, hello.
And on the sideline of that, they obviously did did Muck Off. So Muck Off was a part of the X-like family.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you know, bless him, Rex, the owner, died, and then Alex, the son, sort of took it over, and he's really made Muck Off like a, you know, from a essentially what is a cleaning product into a global mental mad product that's recognized worldwide purely because of the color of it as well. So it's obviously not only just cleaning products now, it's, you know, all sorts of bicycle maintenance of some sort, it's
skincare,
clothing, you know, like the list goes on and on. It's mad. But you think, fair play. From what my first memory there was going into a little warehouse with literally 5 people filling the bottles in that factory, to now, you know, it's massive.
It's absolutely
it's almost kind of cool because I have been there for so long. I do feel part of the furniture, but in a weird sort of way. Not that I'm any big time, but they almost invested in a small little kid that lived around the area, and it's almost like I'm repaying them now for the years of service, because obviously I didn't know. You never know where you're going to be in life, do you? But obviously, I'm fortunately enough for me, like I've grown more than just a kid who's just racing. Obviously, social media platforms, blah 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 blah. So it's almost a win-win for both of us, and it's cool to be a part of something.
Stuff. Yeah, I've got bags of time for them. I'm supported by Chelsea Cycles for my mechanical needs, and they're a Muck Off ambassador store. And as one of the supported riders, I get free Muck Off stuff. So Muck Off aren't just supporting big dogs like you. There are, even on the ground level, they're kind of still supporting the little guy where they need to. And obviously the amount of lube and cleaning stuff we go through in the winter is when you're on the bike standing daily is insane.
Definitely.
Yeah. So well, I think that's pretty much about it, Deeks. To be honest, I'm running dry.
We don't want to bore anyone
now. I don't want to bore anyone with shit because you've been on a lot of podcasts. I don't want to scrape the barrel too much. But obviously, I'll look forward to seeing you again on the hill again soon, I'm sure. And good to have a casual chinwag and shoot the shit.
No, definitely, mate. And I hope, from a podcast point of view, this really does well, because it's sick. It's sick.
Nice.
Like, I think chatting to Davey and things, it's almost like bike parks where people are like, oh, I better not build another bike park because it's competition. When actually, I feel like all it does is just create more buzz about a platform. So if there's a podcast, I didn't really know anything about podcasts until I started listening to Davey's, actually, where it was like Davey and Ollie or something back in the day, and I was like, this is kind of cool, and what a good way to kill time when you're driving. Like, I know
that's literally why I started getting into them. I was as a lot with most things, I was pretty late to the party with them. Then you start getting into them, then you find other ones, and then you start just spreading your wings, start listening to all sorts of mad stuff. I remember joking with quite a while ago, one of my riding mates, we used to joke about, like, we used to go off the riding trips to Wales, we'd listen to punk rock and hip hop and whatnot on the way, and then now we're driving up listening to a podcast about the Large Hadron Collider or something. It's like, oh man, we've changed. It's like, love them, mate. All right, dude, I'm gonna let you get on and enjoy the rest of the day.
Very much, mate.
You're welcome, dude.
And see you soon.
And I didn't say oi once.
Leave now, and then it's all saved itself.
Yeah, mate, it's all recorded. So I'll stop recording now. Okay, guys, so that was episode 4 with none other than the Deakinator himself. Always a giggle chatting to Deeks. I really hope you enjoyed the episode. It was a ton of fun having a chat with that guy, as always. You know where to go and find Deeks. You can find him on YouTube. You can find him on Instagram. I'll stick all the links in the show description. Anyway, I'm also going to pop into that show description a link to the new GoFundMe I've started for Gromcast. It feels super cheeky. I know times are super hard for everyone right now. But if anyone can chuck in a bit of cash for this, it'd be hugely appreciated, just so I can get some better kit for this podcast and make this the best I can possibly make it. All your support will be hugely appreciated. Thanks so much for all the comments, messages, and for the people who bumped into the Freedom Ride, all the comments you said so far. That feels pretty cool. In the meantime, keep them peeled on all the socials for what guests and things we've got coming up next. I haven't got any regular episode plans coming out for this, so it's going to be a little bit as and when. Hopefully things get a bit more regular as time goes on. Otherwise, if I don't see you at Rogate, I'll see you out on the trail somewhere. Take it easy, folks. Bye-bye.